Hey, welcome to session 12, level 1 training. We are here, fast and furious. I feel like this is going really fast. You might feel that way, you might not. Hopefully, you're learning some new things, and I'm trying to take very complex things that I've learned over the years and make them very simple. Okay. It's part of the SARA training with the Transformed Hearts Training Institute. So, we are going to talk about a few things to kind of wrap this up. And the big one is taking care of you. Early in my career, I've been practicing nearly 20 years. Easy to burn out early. Coming out of school, again, those of you that are graduating school, welcome to the profession. I think mental health is kind of a dog eat dog world. Sometimes people above you, supervisors and such, don't treat you so kindly. I want to really change that culture, and that you are valuable. You are the next generation of psychologists, therapists, helpers, supervisors. So we want you to succeed. If you succeed, we succeed. So it's been fun learning lots as I do this, trying to take things and make them understandable, and but yet new and fresh as well. So let's talk about self-care a little bit. Your diet, drinking plenty of water, okay, breathing, breath work, meditation work, very important. And then, traditional exercise. There's all types of great exercise, whether you're hitting a gym or just going for a walk. Okay, even between clients, if you have a full load, just taking a few minutes between clients. We'll get into more of this in upper level training, finishing your sessions on time to get to the next one, documentation, things like that, rest, sleep, that you're getting plenty of rest and sleep, and you're not taking home what your clients are sharing with you. You leave work at work. Okay, your own personal recovery, your own therapy if needed. And this field isn't for everybody. There's different levels, tons of different opportunities in the mental health world, from career counseling to hospital work to acute care, chronic care, your own practice, part of a group practice, joining one, crisis intervention. Pretty much I have done it all in my career. So, and then each different aspect of mental health has taught me different things. Prison work, yeah, inpatient work, yeah, crisis intervention, going out and doing assessments with policemen. I've done it all, and I want to share my wisdom, my knowledge. I love sharing my ignorance to anyone that'll listen, I always say. And if you're a coach, or I should say, you got to look at this for self-care as though you are a coach and your clients are the trainee, meaning you are not going to push the weight for them. Okay, you are observing them. You push your own weight for your own recovery and treatment. That's why doing your own work is so important. You can only take people as far as you have been, and I know not everybody agrees with me on that. That's okay. My ego is not attached to convincing you of that. Managing burnout. Okay, so do not work harder than your clients. Meaning, and this can sound cold and cruel, and it's not meant to be. It's meant for you to survive, keep boundaries, saying no, not giving your phone number out, personal number. I never text my clients. I do not friend my clients on social media. I just have boundaries around that. Some clinicians do. Professionally, when I worked for agencies and inpatient care, I don't even befriend my colleagues often or date my colleagues. None of that. And it's treated me well. Okay, it's worked for me. That may not be you. That's just me. I don't go out for drinks after work. Work is work, and my personal life is my personal life. I'll be nice to you. Not trying to be mean, but it's just one of my boundaries that's helped me last 20 years in this field. So, yeah, always can talk more about that in level 2. Internally versus externally motivated clients. We talked about that last session. You want to work, if you can, with internally motivated clients. Okay. And internally motivated clients generally are not your Medicaid, Medicare clients. Okay. And people might be upset for me for saying that, but it's true. I have an oldest daughter and just starting out in the social work field, and she and I have had this conversation. Burnout is high in acute care, crisis interventions places, because you got the revolving door of the same clients, because you're working with a mentality. It's very victimized. Okay. Very outside in living. Okay. And I'm not saying don't work with them. I'm just saying be careful. Okay. And how many clients like that you take on. Okay. I take care of myself first in order to take care of others second. Okay. It's a quote from Richard Grannon, by the way, very non codependent. And that's how you got to take care of you. Okay. Self-pay versus third-party payers. I mentioned this earlier in other sessions. I'm all self-pay, and it's taken a long time to get here. I will never go back to third-party payers. I will provide billing statements if they want to follow up with their insurance to pay them directly, but we are paid up front. Okay. Says with my style of note taking, I am working for my clients. I'm not working for their insurance companies. Therefore, I don't have to play by their rules. There's tremendous freedom in this type of thinking. Okay. And we need to, as professional therapists, psychologists, start setting the boundaries with these insurance companies rather than them telling us what to do and we are working for them, and they have no liability and they put all the liability on you and me. That's not a contract I want to be a part of. Sorry. No, thank you. We're carrying all the risk. They're carrying nothing. So these are things you want to think about. Okay. What else? Boundaries with those you are helping. So I mentioned some of those, giving out your personal cell number, social media. I don't do it. I mean, if you find it wise, again, not right or wrong, it's just one of those wise or foolish things. Okay. I do not want you to be codependent with me. I'm modeling this. This is how I model this to my clients. I'm modeling it to you. Okay. I want you to self-regulate. Is this wise or foolish? I have always run my practice with what does this look like in front of a judge? Okay, think about that. What would this look like, even if it's out of context? If they were to walk in on me right now with this client and they said one thing and I said something else, what would that look like? Okay, things like hugging your clients, the opposite sex, same sex. You keep the bar high. Okay. I generally don't hug clients. Again, I mentioned as a male, I don't compliment a woman's beauty. Okay. So these are all things I've had to learn in my own recovery, my own practice as a therapist and as a recovering sex addict, anorexic, codependent myself. Okay. Recovering from my addiction to being offended. All right, so I want to talk about leadership a little bit. So some of you might be coming out of the kind of client world and wanting to enter the leadership world. So if you're a client wanting to lead groups, or someone going through school was impacted by a therapist, a psychologist, like, hey, I want to do this. When is it okay to lead? Let's say you're in recovery, or you have a client in recovery and they want to start helping. Okay, so here's some of my do's and don'ts around that. Again, number one rule, not right or wrong, wise or foolish. So this is actually a blog you can check out on the Transformed Hearts website. So do stay in a place of leadership you are already in. So if a client or you are starting this journey and you're like, oh man, I can't lead. No, you can stay in your position of leadership. Okay. Whether that's a director of a department, large or small, leading a group, ministry, or um, business. Okay. It doesn't matter. I would recommend you stay where you are until you start to get your sea legs under you, if you will, for about 6 months to a year. Okay. Before you make any major changes. So here's the next one. Do not change positions, careers, or leadership roles for the next 6 months of recovery until things stabilize. Okay. Do you consider taking on a new or additional role of leadership only after the 6 months of recovery and sobriety? Do not say yes to things you know you want to say no to. Okay. Again, boundaries, codependency. Do practice saying no for the next 90 days for extra things, personal and professional relationships you that are requesting of you. You know, hey, can you do this for us? Can you take on this in the community, personally or professionally? Okay, say no for a while. Don't betray yourself. Trust that intuition. And if you need an excuse, I always tell my clients, blame Corey, blame your therapist. Okay. It's okay to say no. We're going to talk more in depth about boundaries in level 2. Okay. Do not feel guilty for saying no. Okay. For whatever reason, in our codependent upbringing as helpers, we always feel guilty about saying no. I got to say yes. Okay. No, it's okay to say no. It's healthy to say no. Do begin to manage your personal and professional schedule and stop letting it manage you. I got a whole thing I do during the intensive that I go through with the clients on that alone. Okay, we'll get into that. Do attend 1 to 3 recovery meetings a week for the first 90 days. There's the idea of 90 and 90, one meeting every day for 90 days. You can do that. Okay, I've had clients that do it. I never did it in mine, but you can actually get addicted to going to meetings. So you got a married couple, he's going to meetings 90 days in a row, and it becomes an escape. Okay, so again, not right or wrong, wise or foolish. And generally, I don't recommend the 90 and 90. It's 1 to 3 meetings. Those could be face to face, open, close, all the things we learned about with groups. Okay, Zoom, phone. Some guys do a face to face in a Zoom group. Okay. Do not feel guilty about missing a meeting. Okay, so if you are in the middle of your recovery, got to miss a meeting, not a big deal. Let's catch the next one. Okay, don't shame yourself or your clients shaming themselves. Other thoughts on do's and don'ts if you're in a place of leadership or when to start leading. Do collect names and numbers of safe people you can practice calling between meetings. Do not let your ego trick you that you are doing better than you really are. Do stay humble, teachable, honest, and listen twice as much as you speak. This is what leaders do. Do not let anyone shame or convince you that you're unfit to lead. It's a big one. Do practice recovery principles in all aspects of your life. Do not stop working your recovery and program as life gets busy. It can happen very easily. Do share about your temptations in the presence of safe people in recovery. Some of my groups, we have our check-in, which again, more upper level training stuff. But sometimes my check-ins are just simply, number one, what do you not want the group to know? That's the only reason we meet, is being honest. Okay, secrets keep you sick. We talked about this. What's the one thing you don't want the group to know? Because then there are no more secrets, and the secret doesn't have power over you. And number two, what have you learned in your recovery work? Okay, this week I've sat again through tens of thousands of hours of meetings, and I would dwindle it down to that. But we have a much more comprehensive check-in. But sometimes people hide behind the check-in sheet, I call it, So sometimes I throw a curveball and just say, okay, what's the one thing you don't want the group to know today, guys, gals? And you'd be amazed, like, oh, I didn't want the group to know this. And after they share it, it has no power over them. Do not overshare about your addiction and recovery work to people not in recovery. So this is very important. Okay, you don't need to tell your boss everything, or the checkout person, the grocery store, okay, or even sometimes family members. Okay, when you go to a meeting, that's why it's so easy to talk to a stranger. Okay, they're not related to you. Okay, family members can be tremendously difficult, challenging to share with. All right, other areas of leadership, self-care, is understanding sponsor-sponsee relationships. If you are interested in becoming a sponsor, here are some quick do's and don'ts. Okay, so this is for the sponsor. Do you have the confidence to be a sponsor after 1 year of actively participating in a support group and therapy? You will grow tremendously by giving away what you have learned and helping others. It is advisable to have at least the first 5 steps completed yourself. Okay, do not become your sponsorees or sponsees therapist or give advice. Be a good listener. Share your recovery story, experience, wisdom, tools, and resources that have helped you. Do set boundaries with your sponsee. Sponsoree is the correct grammar. I like still using sponsee. Regarding meeting times, the amount of time, your availability, and recovery work expectations. Do not attach yourself to outcome of them changing or how you want them to change. Enjoy the process and the present moment with them. Your happiness does not depend on their sobriety. This is a big one. A lot of my sponsors get so bummed out and devastated when their sponsees relapse or sponsoree relapse. Okay, you have no control over what your sponsee or sponsoree does, well, I should say thinks, feels, or does. Okay. Do believe that their behavior, not their words. Understand not everyone wants help or will work as hard as you. Okay. And again, same as a sponsor. If you were a therapist, don't work harder with your clients. Sponsors don't work harder than the people you're sponsoring. Do not become romantically involved with your sponsoree. Big no. Do be a kind, loving, and patient as others have been with you. Okay, so think about how patient, kind people have been with you. If you're 30, 40, 50 years old, trying to sponsor or help someone in their 20s, that's already ahead of the curve where you were. What were you doing in your 20s? You weren't in recovery. You weren't trying to do this. So be patient, meaning it might be in their 30s, 40s, or 50s until they start making the changes you made. Okay, so be patient. Next, sponsoring relationships. So if now, this next part, if you are interested in being sponsored, here are some quick do's and don'ts. So you're the sponsored one, sponsee, sponsoree. You're looking for a sponsor. So here's what you do. Do ask questions about your potential sponsor up front. Do not be late or become a no-show upon your agreed upon meeting times, regardless if they are in person, by phone, or video. Do communicate by text, email, or phone with relevant information. Do not spend time complaining about your partner, children, parents, co-workers, and their issues in person or by phone. Your sponsor's time is valuable. Do not abuse it. Talk about yourself. Critical. Do you have a journal to share your entries? Take notes. Have 3 things you want to share that you are learning about yourself in your addiction or addictions. Do not expect a sponsor to initiate a relationship with you, work harder than you, or care more than you. Do interview more than one sponsor before deciding or choosing a sponsor that is right for you. Do not be entitled, demanding, or easily offended. Do be teachable, a good listener, a student who is ready to receive feedback. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. All right, here's some other thoughts. So you're when interviewing for a sponsor, okay? Below are some questions to consider. How long have you been in recovery? What addiction or addictions are you recovering from? How do you define your sobriety? What is your sobriety date from acting out? Okay, so drugs, sex, alcohol, food, whatever, or acting in. That's the withholding, the anorexia stuff. Okay. Are you single, married, or divorced? What hobbies do you enjoy? Have you completed the steps yourself? Some more questions to consider. How long have you been working on the steps? Do you have time to take my calls? Do you have a sponsor yourself? How many others are you sponsoring? Do you have a religious or spiritual affiliation? What has been the most helpful? What has been the most helpful in your own recovery journey? What has been the least helpful in your recovery journey? What have you learned about yourself in your recovery? All right. So this next section is about secrets. So if you're trying to help a couple or an individual, or you yourself are in recovery, this should make some sense to you. Okay. So living the double life in recovery, I call this wise or foolish. Okay. Here are some things to consider. So what I mean by this is living the double life is your recovery world is separate from your professional world, or your recovery world is separate from your family, your parents, maybe even your spouse. Hopefully the spouses, the partner and the spouse are in recovery together. Not always true, but that I am the same person in a recovery meeting that I am at the office. Okay. I don't have any secrets. I'm not wearing a mask. Okay. Another word for ego is mask. Playing a certain character, a persona, an image that I'm trying to manage. Okay. And the double life living will backfire. Okay. I have couples I worked with for a decade or more, and they didn't listen to me. Okay. And now their adult kids finally found out, or they told them. And had they told them sooner, or just been upfront with age appropriate disclosure, again, whole nother topic we'll get into later, this wouldn't have happened. Okay, this another crisis. Okay, can avoid these crises by being one person, that I'm not in this world, and my personal life, recovery life, and then my professional life. It's almost like three worlds come colliding. Okay, we want to be that same person in recovery for the most part that I am in my personal life and professional life. So here we go. Talk to each other about how sharing the we secret might help or hurt you, your family, friends, and coworkers. What are the pros and cons of sharing this with your children, family, friends, coworkers, again, boss, or your community? After my intensive, I shared my story in front of our church. Okay, it's not right or wrong. It's wise for me, not for everybody. Our story has been on TLC, ABC, NBC, Fox, Good Morning America. That's not everybody's story. Okay, that was our story. I'm an open book. Okay, I have no secrets, and there's tremendous freedom when there are no secrets. They have no leverage against you. Nobody has any leverage against you. What things are age, socially, personally, and professionally appropriate or inappropriate for you to share? Okay, especially with kids. People ask me, well, what should I share with my kids? I don't know. I haven't met them. What are their ages? What are their genders? Share what's age appropriate. Okay. What things do you agree or disagree on to share with others? What things can you share individually apart from the other? Okay. These are things couples need to discuss. Can you share your own individual stories apart from each other without throwing the other under the bus? Can you share your individual story without making yourself look like the victim? Okay. Oh, my husband did this to me. That's why I'm in the, okay, or my wife did this to me. Okay, probably not ready to share yet. Some other things to get out of the double life living. If you are still experiencing a great deal of shame or fear, consider speaking to a therapist or a group member further along in recovery than you are. What steps can you take toward overcoming your shame? So a lot of people don't want other people to know because there's still the shame still attached. What lies are you still believing about yourself? A recovery group is a safe place to practice sharing your story with others and receiving positive feedback. Okay, recovery groups are a practice ground. Okay, you can do it there. You can then do it in real life outside the safety of that group. Once you have practiced and become comfortable sharing the process and have worked up to at least step 5, you might be ready to share in your story of healing outside the recovery life. Okay, outside the recovery world. Once you are able to share your story with others, regardless of how others respond, positively or negatively, and you are okay with either response, then you are probably ready. This is a great sign that you're overcoming codependency. I would say shame as well, and you are not grounded in who you are and who you're not. Okay. So again, you're ready to share when no matter who you share with and how they respond, whether they accept you or reject you, you're gonna be okay. You'll be okay. Then you're ready. Okay. How have you lived out your 12 steps or hope to live them out in the future? Okay. What other addictions have you discovered in the 12-step process? And then write out a narrative using your 5 senses of what that interaction might look like. Use your imagination how to share your story with others outside your recovery life or recovery world. What specifically do you want to share? Make a list of your strengths and weaknesses. Where did you start your recovery and where are you now in the process? What have you learned about yourself? Okay, so these are just some things that help get out of the secret stuff. All right, I want to talk a little bit more about the ego. We've been talking about this over the last several sessions. Just kind of a review here, but it's all gonna come together here. It's not all good or all bad. Okay, part of us that protects us. The ego wants it all good or all bad, creates separation, wants you for itself. Ego loves labels and titles. Ego loves being right. Ego loves the dualism polarity stuff, which we saw in the continuum. It's all right. Tells you you will be happy when you blank future stuff, right? Creates fear of the future and shames you of the past. All right, now the unholy trinity, this is what I call, is think of it as a triangle, top, 2 sides, right? These are the fractured parts of your soul. This is my theory. Okay, this is just a theory. You can agree, disagree. Your soul, your spirit. And I'm not gonna get in. I'm just kind of calling soul, spirit the same thing. I know they're different for some people. So let's talk about the ego. So the ego is on one of the bottom corners. Okay, so the I am is in Latin, means I am, your adult self trying to grow up. We've been talking about this. The id is your inner child, wounded child, scared inner child. Okay, on the 2 sides. And the top is the superego, the sapora, the above the I am and the id. Okay, the child. Critical parent part of you, critical voice in your head, lords over the ego and the id and beats you up, and then it turns on others. Okay. So the way out of this is becoming what's called the observer. Okay. As I mentioned before, I can observe myself talking to you now. You can observe yourself listening. Okay. We are able to observe the fractured parts of our soul and spirit. Okay. So in that triangle is I believe my theory is you're born, soul, spirit, and then upon birth, that is fractured. Okay. So you must understand you and your clients are not the only 2 in the room, 2 or 3. Okay. So outside the top, the super ego, the ego, and the id is the observer observing the super ego, and the id. Okay. They're the inner child. Okay. Right. So if you put this together, the client's ego, id, superego, and their observer, there's 4 parts of themselves, okay? The partners or of the client, the ego, they have their own ego, id, superego, and observer. And then you, okay? Your own ego, id, superego, and observer. So with a couple, you're working with 12 fractions in that room. And working with couples, or 8 if you were just working with an individual. Okay, this is important to understand why change is so difficult. Okay, and the goal is integration back to oneness. Okay, the soul spirit was one, it was fractured. Okay, and I believe that work is a lifetime of work. Okay, is healing the super ego, and inner child in back into oneness. Okay. So this is something I wrote in another blog on the ego. You may have read this one already. The ego is like that of an enormous mansion behind a fortified wall with no furnishings or inhabitants, beautiful and protected on the outside, but empty and lifeless on the inside, waiting, longing, and demanding to be filled. Okay, that is after all my reading. Love Eckhart Tolle. Check out some of his stuff. Excellent. The New Earth, great book. Must read. All right, number 1. I learned I had to step outside myself and look at myself as an observer of the ego, discover its thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, not judging them as good or bad, but simply as information or data communicating to me about what is going on. As the observer, I had to unattach myself from an outcome of how my ego wants things to turn out, or what I believe to be right and just, according to me. It demands perfection from others, perfection according to itself. Okay. I have learned to not react or overreact when things do not go my way, or the way the ego convinced me things should go or should have turned out. And if you're a clinician trying to help others, you gotta understand this. You gotta get it. I'm learning how to live in the present moment. Okay. It is in this present moment where we experience joy, peace, love, kindness, gratitude. Okay. So your ego again tries to convince you that you are your beliefs or rules or rules. Your political ego. There's all types. There's a religious ego, educational, experiential, moral, spiritual, emotional, sexual. All types of egos we have. All right. And you have to learn to observe them, not let them to control you. So your ego convinces you are these things. Okay. And you changing them is very scary, as much as it is for your clients. Okay. It's very challenging coming out of cognitive dissonance, Stockholm syndrome. Okay. It's as scary as hell. Okay. This is not an easy thing. Resources. So check out our bookstore. Their winning series videos on YouTube, other blogs. Again, today we got about 230 out there. Intensives, how we do that. I'm going to get into that training in upper level training. Assessments, polygraphs, support groups, supervision, speaking. We also do that at conferences, and have done workshops, etc. So what's next for you? Is SARA level 2 training for you, or 3? I would say prerequisites that you pass this level 1 exam with a 75% or higher. It's not going to be too difficult. We just have to show you've listened to these videos, you've read the blogs I've recommended you reading. Read Out of the Darkness, our little black book. You can ask, get that copy, ship it out to you. Read at least 25 of the blogs of your choice. Okay. What value you will gain from level 2, deeper understanding of codependency. What is the anorexic cycle, information, and what I call the secrets behind the curtain, what we do here. PDF access, handouts, which we have many. Okay. Practical tools you'll learn with intimacy without sex, or I would say intimacy outside the bedroom. So learn about the daily 5 exercise, confident conversations, art of communicating, validation exercise, non-traditional forgiveness exercise, a validation exercise on there again, spelled correctly. I'm feeling anorexic exercise, open my heart exercise, date night, happy camper model, and then intimacy with sex or in the bedroom. So understand the holding with giving, embracing exercise, understanding the 3 sex statements exercise, the sexual garden, sexual likes, dislikes, positions. We get into all that. Sexual agreement, who initiates when to be intimate. So who, when, where, how, basically, is about the sexual garden and agreement. And then understanding sexual polarity, which are some newer blogs I've recently posted. So what's next for you and SARA? What you will learn continued here. Deeper understanding of codependency, anorexic cycle, PDF access. Yeah, we covered all this, but what we didn't cover yet is where to go here. Preparing couples through the disclosure process. Okay, this is a big one. Okay, how do you walk couples through the disclosure process? This is a balancing act and very advanced stuff. We will get into that. How to prepare a polygraph for a polygraph exam and get the questions ready and show you what questions, how a polygraph works, and how to work with a polygrapher and how to find one. Okay. I've been working with our polygrapher for over a decade. Okay. And once you have one and they work with you, you work with them, it is tremendously helpful through this process. If you're going to help couples heal from sex addiction and anorexia, polygrapher is almost a must. Okay. And I've taken my own polygraphs. Okay. Several times. Okay. Joining the SARA team. So what other things you could learn is how we're going to get into the initial appointment, okay, assessment tool and the process. Okay. What is our therapeutic intensive like? We'll talk about that, and we eventually in level 3 or 4, we're going to get into training you to do a 3, 5, 10-day intensive, dealing with resistance, continuing your own recovery, marketing your practice. We're going to be talking about that, and knowing your market, your ideal clientele, what part of the country or the world you live in. Okay. I want to thank each of you for investing your time. I'm grateful that you've invested in yourself, trusting us with this information, giving of your valuable time. You're now part of this movement. We are trying to create a new culture with SARA. We doing recovery and therapy different. That's what we're doing here. And if you got through these videos, hopefully you see that, you feel that, you hear that a little different. So if you have any questions, please do contact us on your questions about taking the exam, to obtain level 2, 3 access, supervision, intensive training. Email us at support@transformedhearts.com. It's been a pleasure. I am just so grateful for your time and just attention. And I know I've thrown a lot at you. It's like drinking out of a fire hose, but I'm giving you the diamonds. A lot of manure I've had to go through, read books. I got a pile of books here on my side of books I haven't even mentioned. Okay, to find the best of the best and to really do this effectively, easily, and understandable. Okay, so people understand these complex things. Okay, until level 2, we'll see you then.